Welcome back. Tonight, we are going somewhere very few human beings have ever been. Not upward this time, not out into the stars and the vastness of space. Tonight, we are going down through the surface of the ocean, where the light first begins to fade, down through the cool blue middle waters, where the sunlight becomes a memory, down into the darkness below, a darkness as complete and profound as anything the universe has to offer, the deep ocean. It covers more than half the surface of our planet. It holds more than 97% of all the water on Earth. And yet, remarkably, astonishingly, we have explored less of it than we have explored the surface of the moon. More human beings have stood on the moon than have descended to the deepest point of the ocean. Think about that for a moment. Right here, on our own planet, beneath the waves of the very oceans that cover most of the Earth, there are places that no human eye has ever seen, creatures that no scientist has ever studied, landscapes of extraordinary beauty and strangeness that exist in complete and permanent darkness, miles below the world we know. Tonight, we are going to explore what we know of this hidden world and marvel together at how much we do not. So let yourself settle. Let your breathing slow. Imagine, if you will, the feeling of warm water all around you, the world above growing distant and quiet. And let us descend. The ocean has layers. Like the atmosphere above it, the ocean is divided into distinct zones, each one defined by the amount of light that reaches it, and each one home to its own extraordinary community of life. The uppermost layer is called the sunlight zone. This is the ocean of beaches and coral reefs, of dolphins leaping in the bow waves of ships, of sunlight filtering through shallow water in shifting columns of green and gold, of the sea turtles and the whale sharks, and the great shoals of silver fish that move like living clouds through the warm upper waters. The sunlight zone extends to a depth of roughly 200 meters, and within those 200 meters lives the vast majority of all ocean life we have ever studied or cataloged. But it represents only a tiny fraction of the ocean's total depth. The average depth of the ocean is around 3,700 meters. The deepest point, the Challenger, the deep in the Mariana Trench, reaches nearly 11,000 meters, 11 kilometers straight down. If you placed Mount Everest at the bottom of the Challenger Deep, its summit would still be more than 2 kilometers beneath the surface of the water. Below 200 meters, the light begins to fail. This is the twilight zone, a strange, dimly lit world where the last traces of sunlight filter down in pale blue shimmers, and where the creatures that live here have evolved extraordinary adaptations to survive in the near darkness. Many of the animals of the twilight zone produce their own light. This phenomenon, called bioluminescence, is one of the most magical and otherworldly things in all of nature. Imagine swimming through water that glows, where the passage of your hand through the darkness leaves a trail of cold blue fire, where the creatures around you flash and pulse and shimmer with their own inner light. Scientists estimate that as many as 90% of deep-sea creatures produce some form of bioluminescence. In the deep ocean, light is not something that comes from above. It is something that comes from within. Below 1,000 meters, the last trace of sunlight disappears entirely. This is the midnight zone, a world of permanent, absolute darkness, crushing pressure, and near-freezing temperatures. At these depths, the pressure of the water above is approximately 100 times greater than at the surface. Uh, a human being, unprotected, would be instantly and catastrophically crushed, and yet life thrives here. Life, as it turns out, is extraordinarily resourceful. Given any environment, no matter how extreme, no matter how apparently hostile, life finds a way to adapt, to persist, to flourish. The creatures of the Midnight Zone have evolved bodies built for pressure. Their cells, their chemistry, their entire biology is calibrated for a world that would kill anything from the surface in an instant. The deep ocean is home to some of the most extraordinary and alien-looking creatures on Earth. The anglerfish hunts in the absolute darkness using a bioluminescent lure that dangles from a filament above its enormous jaws. It glows in the darkness, a tiny cold light, drawing curious creatures toward a mouth full of needle-like teeth. The giant squid. For centuries, the stuff of legend and sailors' tales, the kraken of mythology, lives in the deep ocean. Growing to lengths of up to 13 meters, it was known only from fragments and from the sucker scars found on the skin of sperm whales, until the first photographs of a living giant squid in its natural habitat were captured in 2004. For all of human history before that moment, no living human being had ever seen one. The barrel-eye fish peers upward through its transparent head with enormous tubular eyes. The viperfish has teeth so large they cannot fit inside its closed mouth. The goblin shark, ancient, pink, and deeply strange, can project its jaws outward from its face to catch prey. These are not creatures of science fiction. They are real. They are alive, right now, in the darkness beneath the ocean. Below 6,000 meters lies the Hadal Zone, named for Hades, the Greek god of the underworld. This is the realm of the ocean trenches, the deep scars in the ocean floor where tectonic plates meet and one slides beneath the other. The Mariana Trench, the Tonga Trench, the Philippine Trench. Places with names that sound like the edges of maps. In 2019, a diver descended to the bottom of the Challenger Deep, the deepest point on Earth, and found, among other things, a plastic bag. Even there, even in that remote, dark, crushing, ancient place, the fingerprints of humanity had arrived first. The floor of the deep ocean is not the barren, featureless plain that scientists once imagined. It is a landscape of extraordinary diversity and drama, of mountain ranges longer than any on land, of volcanoes and vast plains of sediment that have never been touched by sunlight. The mid-ocean ridge, a chain of underwater mountains that winds its way around the entire planet, is the longest mountain range on Earth. At over 60,000 kilometers in length, it dwarfs the Himalayas, the Andes, the Rockies, and almost none of it has ever been seen by human eyes. In 1977, scientists exploring the ocean floor near the Galapagos Islands made one of the most astonishing discoveries in the history of biology. They found, on the dark floor of the deep ocean, clusters of life unlike anything ever seen before. Around cracks in the ocean floor, called hydrothermal vents, superheated water was gushing upward, rich in minerals and chemicals. And around these vents, in water temperatures that would kill most life instantly, entire ecosystems were flourishing. Giant tube worms, up to 2 meters long, vast clusters of mussels and clams, ghostly white crabs, shimmering schools of fish. All of it, every single living thing in this extraordinary community, surviving without a single photon of sunlight. Instead, these creatures were powered by chemosynthesis, using the chemical energy of the superheated, mineral-rich water to build life from nothing. A completely independent origin of life's energy. a second way of being alive. This discovery changed everything we thought we knew about the requirements for life. If life could exist here, in crushing darkness, in scalding water, sustained by chemistry rather than sunlight, then where else might it exist? The moons of Jupiter and Saturn are now among our most exciting candidates for extraterrestrial life, not because they are warm and sunlit, but because beneath their icy surfaces, there may be oceans, and where there are oceans and heat from below, there may be life. We have mapped approximately 20% of the ocean floor in meaningful detail. 20%. We have more detailed maps of the surface of Mars than we do of the bottom of our own oceans. More detailed maps of the Moon, of Mercury, of Venus. Scientists estimate that as many as 2 million species may live in the deep ocean. We have formally described and named approximately 250,000 marine species in total, which means there may be creatures of extraordinary complexity and strangeness living in the dark waters beneath us that we have not yet even glimpsed. There is something deeply poetic about the fact that life on Earth began in the ocean. The first living organisms emerged in the ancient seas, billions of years ago. For the vast majority of life's history on this planet, the ocean was the only home life had ever known. And the ocean, in a sense, has never left us. The fluid that surrounds our cells has a chemical composition remarkably similar to seawater. The salt in our blood, the minerals in our cells, the rhythm of our own biochemistry, all carry echoes of the ancient ocean in which our earliest ancestors lived. We came from the sea. We carry it with us, and it covers most of the world we live on, holding mysteries we have barely begun to unravel. The deep ocean is not silent. Sound travels through water approximately 4.5 times faster than it travels through air. And in the deep ocean, whale song generated in one ocean can potentially be heard in another. The low, resonant calls of blue whales, the deepest voices of any animal on Earth, can travel for thousands of kilometers. There is a sound in the ocean that scientists call the bloop. Recorded in 1997, it was an extraordinarily powerful, ultra-low frequency sound. Detected by sensors nearly 5,000 kilometers apart, for years its origin was unknown. The ocean kept its secret, as it always does. We have descended quite far tonight, through the sunlit shallows and the glowing twilight zone, through the permanent darkness of the midnight zone, and the crushing depths of the Hadal trenches, past the hydrothermal vents where life burns without sunlight. And what we have found, as we always do when we look closely at this world, is wonder. Somewhere beneath every ocean on this planet, right now, in the darkness and the cold and the crushing pressure of the deep, creatures are moving, living, hunting, glowing with their own cold light, going about their ancient lives, as they have for millions of years, entirely unaware of the world above the waves, entirely unaware of you. Let that thought carry you gently now. Let the image of deep, dark, still water settle over you like a blanket. The ocean breathes, slowly, rhythmically, in great planetary tides that have been rising and falling since long before there were eyes to watch them. Let your own breathing slow to match it. You are safe.
You are resting
And somewhere below, in the deep and ancient dark, the ocean keeps its secrets, as it always has, as it always will. Good night.